What is going on, everybody? I am back today because I was online this weekend and I noticed scrolling through Twitter and Instagram and on Letterboxd, a ton of people are watching this movie on Hulu called No One Will Save You. I've seen a ton of people discussing this film, saying if you're going to watch something this weekend, watch this movie. So when I see this much hype build up around something, I immediately want to go and check it out right away. And I was very much looking forward to watching this movie, essentially knowing nothing about it. I didn't watch a trailer beforehand. All I did was see the poster on Hulu and saw a bunch of people talking about how much they enjoyed it. So today I'm going to be discussing the film No One Will Save You. No One Will Save You is directed by Brian Duffield. A young woman who's been alienated from her community finds herself in the face-off against a host of extraterrestrial beings who threaten her future while forcing her to deal with her past. So, as I said, had absolutely no idea what to expect when I watched this movie, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I don't think it is a perfect movie, especially when it comes to the third act. I'm not 100% sure that I'm in love with the way that it ends, but I think as far as execution is concerned, tone, atmosphere, it succeeds in all of those elements, and it's a really unique film, and I'll talk about it a little bit more when I dive into the movie. The film stars Kaitlyn Dever as Bryn. I've been a big fan of Kaitlyn Dever for a while now. She's a really great actress. And at the beginning of the film, there is no dialogue, which you come to find out there is virtually no dialogue in the entire movie from humans. The aliens talk to one another in a language that we don't understand, but there's virtually no human dialogue at all other than when she speaks to herself, like grunting or saying no, 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 in a very kind of muted way. And at the beginning of the movie, we see her in her house alone. She lives in the middle of nowhere. She's working on this model of the town that she lives in. She's working on all these crafts, shipping things out. We see her writing these notes, and through context clues, we find out that she has lost her mother recently, and we also find out that her best friend died 10 years ago. And through all these set of circumstances, through context clues visually, we find out something happened with her and her best friend when she was young that caused her best friend's parents to hate her because of her death. We're not 100% sure what it is. And so she lives in isolation away from the community because it seems like everyone in the community blames her for something surrounding this girl's death at a very young age. And so she's living on her own, and one night in her house when she's asleep, she hears these noises, wakes up, and an alien comes into her house and starts chasing her around the house. She fends for herself, and the movie is this group of aliens starts to invade the small town that she lives in, and she has to try and fight for her survival. So, as I said, I was really impressed with this movie. I don't think that it's perfect, but one of the things I really love about it is the execution with the no dialogue. Obviously, as I said, the aliens chatter back and forth, but we don't understand their language. We don't know what they're saying to each other. But having no dialogue from the human characters, it's really impressive for a director to take that on and have it be so impactful as far as the emotional beats in the film. Obviously, this is a horror film that uses trauma as its vehicle, and I'm always a big fan of that. I know there's a lot of qualms and people that complain about horror movies that are rooted in trauma, but trauma is a very real thing. People experience trauma, and great art stems from trauma. Unfortunately, when people experience something horrible, their outlet and their way to overcome those things is to put it in art. And whether that's 100% accurate as to the trauma that someone has lived through, it's a really cool way to create an art piece that other people can relate to. So I really like movies that juggle real life trauma and horror with more overt, ridiculous horror concepts, like the alien invasion concept that this film is depicting. And I think balancing those two things really well can be difficult for some directors, but I think this director does a really nice job at balancing those things and elevating your emotion as a viewer with those moments that are attached to our lead character's past. I really liked the designs of the aliens in this. They do hit that very kind of stereotypical ideology in horror of like the big heads and like the skinnier bodies, but the director does a really nice job at creating different versions of that alien that look different. Some of them have really long arms, some of them are really short. So they're all very different, and that gives them a unique personality, which makes it a very interesting watch. I really like the atmosphere in this movie a lot, especially in the first 20 minutes. You really get an idea of what you're in for. It's just kind of relentless. The movie starts and doesn't really stop. And that's what I appreciate a lot, especially for a film that doesn't have a lot of dialogue. You kind of have to keep that pace going to keep your audience engaged. And I think the director does a really nice job at keeping that pace and that suspense build up, rather than it just be one night of this girl fighting off these aliens. It kind of goes through a couple of days. And I think the elements that the director adds in, so that it's not just human versus alien, you're getting these little things added into the movie that are really interesting, that add a little bit more lore into what these creatures are capable of. And I liked that a lot. There's obviously no expositional dialogue, so everything in this has to be visual, and I think the visual storytelling is fantastic. I also really loved the score to this film. I think it accompanied it very well, created a very specific type of atmosphere that I can really appreciate a lot. As I said, for my qualms with the film, I'm not the biggest fan of the third act and the way that it wraps up. It makes sense tonally with what they're trying to go for as far as the overcoming your trauma, but I think it's a little too easy. I think the way that the director wraps this up, it's a very simple way to finish the film. It's not necessarily the biggest gut punch that I think the director could have delivered, and it's fine for what it is, but for me personally, I wanted a little bit more after the really intense, kind of heart-pounding hour and 20-minute build-up to that ending. And like I said, I really love all the little things that are thrown in to make it not just person running away from aliens the entire movie. There's all these little things added in that make it a very unique viewing experience. Loved the visual effects. I felt like even the CGI, some CGI looks really bad. The CGI in this film fit really well with this type of a movie. Really loved the way it was shot. There were some really unique sequences that were really awesome to view. And I just had a really nice time watching this movie. Like I said, it's not the greatest horror movie I've ever seen. It's not the greatest alien invasion movie I've ever watched. But it is a lot of fun, and it's executed really well. And I think Kaitlyn Dever, especially for having no dialogue, does a really great job with her facial expressions and her bodily movements to really live this character. And I think that without her performance, I don't think the movie would work as well as it does. But it's a really fun time, and if you're into alien invasion movies or horror films, I think it's definitely worth checking out if you have a Hulu subscription. So have you seen No One Will Save You? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was a lot of fun. Although I didn't think it was perfect, I thought there was enough there to really make for an enjoyable experience. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.